Hello, Holly. How are you?
I'm good, Kimberly. How are you doing?
Good. I am so delighted to have you on the show today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So great. First of all, I am so excited to hear your story about your absolutely adorable candle company and everything else that's led you to this moment in time. Um, we just had so much fun. Being able to partner with you sort of with Twisted Goods on Cassidy's Lemonade Stand signature little candles that you guys had created for International Women's Day. And I bought so many for gifts because first of all, they smell so good. They just smell
Awesome.
so good and they're so cute, and your packaging and everything you've done with your brand is just spot on.
Oh, thank
Kudos
you.
to you.
That means a lot. Yeah, that was a really fun custom, and we were so happy we were able to do that for Twisted Goods. And yeah, it was like I think it was called Little Lemon Squeeze.
I know. I'm like, could it be more perfect? Like it was it was so cute. Yeah, so and the candles they just smell so good.
Mhm.
And I'm a candle person, so always having one burning in my office, in my living room, and wherever the scent around just like makes me so happy, or whatever it is. I could be like, I'm on vacation today. We're gonna burn this. I'm on whatever, whatever you want to feel. And I love that. Your candles have such beautiful scents.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, they really do. Like candles do elicit like a feeling or a memory or a story, and that's like a really important piece to them. And
Yeah,
the
I
and or the little wood wick with them gives them a little soft crackle, so you never feel alone even if you're working from home.
it is. It's like the coziest. That sound is just so pretty. I've never had a candle that sounds like that before. Never. That sounds so it's crackling. Just the fact that it's like a little wood, I don't know, it looks different and it's unique and it just has this, all the things, business owner to business owner. I understand how much work goes into all the little details as you're trying to like figure out whether it's a service or a product or a packaging or whatever the case may be. And you guys have nailed it. So nice
Thank
work.
you. Oh, thank you, that means so much.
Well, and I can only imagine that leading up to launching, I myself have never launched a product like this. I've worked with lots of businesses in assisting them in doing that as we're like planning events and launches and different types of things. But I can imagine that it was not a painless road. I'm imagining there was lots of stories behind the way. So I would love to hear a little bit about your background and kind of what led you to starting Milk Jar Candle Co. and how candles became part of your world.
Yeah, yeah, it's so interesting that like this is what I do now because I never honestly thought that this is what I would be doing or being an entrepreneur. I honestly thought I was going to be working in healthcare because that's the my family's background is my mom's a doctor, my dad's a pharmacist, my sister's a nurse, so I totally thought I was going to go that route, and then I kind of fell into it, which is really cool. I'm so grateful that this is what I'm doing for a living. And yeah, I guess I'll just kind of start from the beginning. I started Milk Jar about 4.5, 5-ish years ago. It was meant to be a little passion project when I was going to school for nursing, actually. So I'm originally from Victoria and I moved to Calgary about 11 years ago to go to school at the University of Calgary for kinesiology. So I started doing kines because I really wanted to be an occupational therapist. And I wasn't really interested in the sport kind of therapy side of kines, but more working with the disabled population. So I really wanted to be an OT, work primarily with children. I applied to go to OT school at U of A after my degree, and my marks weren't quite good enough to get in. I was an okay student. I was like a B student, but I think you need to have like A pluses at this point. I gave up on that dream kind of right away. I decided I wasn't going to go back to school to kind of bump up my marks. And I kind of worked in the field a little bit. I worked for a foundation called Cause and Effect Foundation. So it was an early intervention program for children with disabilities in the preschool years. So I did that for a couple of years. I worked privately for a couple of families, and then kind of just hit this point where I didn't feel like I was making career money. So kind of my my kind of take on that was that I needed to go back to school. So I applied for nursing. And around that time that I was applying for nursing, I was making candles personally at home just for myself. I loved wood wicks. You didn't really see wood wicks very often. And
Mhm.
I used to buy paraffin candles all the time. And I kind of found out that burning paraffin candles is not healthy. It creates a lot of soot in the air. There's known carcinogens in them. So I went to look out to buy soy candles, something cleaner, and I found they were quite expensive. And I was a bit of a still, I wasn't a student at the time, but felt like a poor student still. So I was like, I can make these. So for like a year, I just made candles. I'd make like a batch of 8 and then give them away to friends. And the idea of actually making a company and making a business was kind of born out of me wanting to connect with the disabled community, and create a company where I could maybe donate a portion of the sales while I went back to school so I could still feel connected to this community.
Mm.
And also as a way to pay for textbooks. That honestly was it. And so I launched Milk Jar about a month before starting school, and then started nursing school. And then yeah, I just kind of took off when I was in nursing school about 4.5 years ago. And I got a bit overwhelmed in that first semester. I started getting emails from shops asking to wholesale and asking what my wholesale terms were and all this stuff. I was like, and like my wholesale pricing and all this. And I was like, what should my
Yeah.
wholesale pricing be? I literally asked that to a store because I had no idea. So yeah, so then that kind of, once I realized that, people kind of were really interested in this and I was being creative and it was fun, I had to make the decision after that first semester, okay, am I committing to nursing or am I going to try doing this business? Because if I do both, I'm going to fail at one or both, because nursing school is actually quite challenging. So I decided to defer, after that first semester, defer my nursing for a year and just give Milk Jar a shot, have a Christmas, see if it was what I wanted to do. That was a really hard decision for me to make, not feeling like I was an entrepreneur. And we had a fantastic year. We profited in our first year. I loved it, had so much fun. And yeah, and then when they asked me to sign back up for classes a year later, I told my nursing dean that I wasn't going to sign back up and I was going to keep going with Milk Jar. And here I am 4.5 years later. And
Oh.
I feel like every year we grew, like we doubled every year. And it's so cool to see where it's come now and how many collaborations we've done and how much we've donated. Cause as I said in the beginning, that was a huge piece to why I started the company. It was more to be a vehicle to give back to a community that I really cared about. So yeah, so I couldn't be happier that I'm not a nurse right now in a pandemic.
Totally. You really, really dodged that one.
Totally. I think I made the right decision.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So how did you come up with the name Milk Jar?
It's I maybe I don't think it's that interesting, but I think some people think it is. So, I mean, I tell some people that they look like glasses of milk.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, kind of milk jar. It's in a jar. It looks like milk. It's wax. But the real reason is when I was trying to draw inspiration for my business, I was trying to create a brand. I had a few names. I didn't love any of them, and then I was just trying to think of other companies where I loved their brand name. And I'm in Calgary. So my favorite cocktail bar is called Milk Tiger. And my favorite bottle of wine, I used to be able to buy it here at Kensington Wine Market, but I haven't been able to find it. It's from Napa Valley, I believe, and it's a Zinfandel, and the brand is called Jelly Jar. So I literally just combined two of my favorite alcoholic things to come up with Milk Jar.
I love it.
Yeah. Well,
That's great. Well, it just has this like classic feel to it. I love it.
it's cool. I didn't even realize at the time, but we kind of created a noun. Like a milk jar doesn't really exist. Like you would never call a glass of milk a milk jar. There's like bottles of milk or glasses of milk or a milk jug. But I've noticed people call our candles milk jars. They don't call them candles. It's almost like
Right.
the Q-tip. Like people don't call them
Yes.
cotton swabs, they call them Q-tips. So that was kind of cool. I noticed on my like second market that I was in, like a few months into my business, people were coming and repeat customers were coming and like, oh, I need to get a new milk jar. And I was like, oh, that's so cool that you're calling it a milk jar.
Totally. Yeah. You're like, you really feel like you've nailed it then, right? When people are like using your words as your own branding.
Totally.
I love that. So now as you've like, I love that you were willing to just go out on a limb, because I think that's really hard. Like I think as we grow up and either young adults and then moving through our careers and then into our careers, I think there's always the possibility where you're like, should I have done that? Would that have been a better decision to make? Like, I think we could question ourselves for our whole entire lives until we're 100 years old, still
Yeah.
deciding, oh, should I have made that decision then? And I myself am not one to sort of like coulda, woulda, shoulda. It's sort of like, this is the decision for right now. This is good for right now. And I can deal with the aftermath or the consequences later, knowing that we're just making this decision right now. Pretty quick decision. Maybe that's the entrepreneur in me. Quick decisions, like just like ready to make decisions, and I can deal with the fallout of whatever maybe was or wasn't. I never feel like there's really a wrong decision. It's kind of just moving from thing to thing, right? So how was your family, I guess, and the people around you? Because I think that's a big hang up for a lot of people in making a decision is, what will others think? And we're all not supposed to do that, but it's hard when you have people around you that think you're doing something a certain way. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I'm not going to be a nurse. I'm going to sell candles.
Yeah. Yeah. It was hard. It was hard, but it was hard just in my own mind. I actually had a ton of support from my family. Even my mom and dad, who are one's a doctor and a pharmacist, like they were so supportive. And I think, and same with all my friends, I think they were more supportive than what I was being supportive in myself. I think I was really hard on myself. No, wondering if it was the right decision. It did help that I was deferring for a year and not completely dropping out. So that gave me a little bit of like, okay, this is, if it doesn't work out after a year, I'll just go right back into school. So that really helped. But I think everyone around me believed in milk jar before I did, which is kind of a bummer to say. Like I almost feel bad and like ashamed that I didn't, you know, I believed in it, but I was really nervous and really worried and really just cautious and wondering if I could do it. But yeah, no, I actually had a ton of support and that really did help me. If let's say if I didn't, I don't know if I would have.
That really goes to show that you've surrounded yourself with the right people.
Yep,
Right?
100%.
Like that's so important in life in general, let alone running a business. Like that can honestly be a make or break for business owners if they always have naysayers and always have, and not that you can't handle those types of things, but if your core people around you don't believe in it, it does sort of give you that lift that you need to be like, okay, these people know me better
Yes.
than you maybe sometimes know yourself, right? That's how I feel at least. And if they're being so supportive of this, then this is more of a fear in my mind versus this can't happen, right?
Yep. Yep. I was very fortunate in that regard.
That's amazing. So, what would you say, like, from when you started and made the decision to not go back to school, and you're now both feet in, not just one foot in, and you've like made this decision? How did you, I guess, take those next steps? Like what challenges and things came up for you? As I'm sure there was 1.2 million, like the rest of us, as we're trying to get things figured out in life and business. But what were some of the challenges that came up, and what did you do to kind of propel yourself to get yourself to that place where, like you said, your first Christmas and your first kind of year in business or whatever ended up being profitable, which is rare.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really rare. I think though, profiting in that first year really gave me that, push I needed to know on paper. This is a
Mhm.
good thing because I mean, I didn't really know my numbers for a long time, which is bad as a business owner to say. All I knew is that we had some money. And I was like, that's good enough for me right now. I'll, focus on the finances in like year two. I would say some of the biggest challenges of those next steps, and I bet I would say most businesses could probably feel that, was giving up control. So the first time you need to hire someone, how I kind of, I don't know, dealt with that, I guess, and made it really palatable for myself was I hired a friend. I hired a good friend who I really trusted. Now in this kind of stage, I don't think I would hire a really close friend because it's nice to now separate the business and the
Yeah.
friend kind of side. But when you're really nervous and you're not very comfortable and you're not sure what you're doing, having a friend is really great on your side. So I would say hiring and giving up control and knowing that someone else can also do this job too. There's some things that you have to do, but you can teach people also. And knowing, like, not thinking that you're the only person that can do it perfectly. Because if you're not going to give up control, if you only want to be a one person show, then that makes things really stressful and really hard, and you're not going to be able to grow. And then the next step that was also really challenging was moving out of working in my home to renting a commercial space, because that to me felt like a big undertaking, like signing a 5-year lease, being like, "Okay, I'm doing this for 5 years." And I think we moved into our space about a year and a half ago, the workshop that we're in, which has been the best decision ever, because if we didn't have that space, we wouldn't be able to fulfill the orders that we're doing right now. But yeah, I kind of also, how I kind of went with that though is, and I did it in my home until I was bursting at the seams and like almost frustrated working home. I was like, I need more space.
Yes.
So that kind of really, that helped a lot when I got to the point when I was like, I cannot do it here, or I can't do this alone. Like, you burst at the seams and you wear yourself thin, and you're just like, okay, let's bring on help. Let's get a bigger space.
And don't you find, like, I feel obviously each business has its own timeline and the way that it works and that sort of thing, but I feel like there's common denominators. And I hear people talking about this all. I've had a few conversations, even just this past week, about just how do you make those decisions as a business when you are like every single business, unless you're immediately starting an idea with a business partner, every business generally starts as a one person scenario unless you're doing something together off the get-go. So you're always in this scenario of, okay, how do we hire? What's next? Oh, wait, but what if we don't have money to pay this person? Oh, wait, now we're bursting at the seams. Oh, wait, now we need a space. And it's sort of this like ongoing spider web of all of these things that like need to be figured out. And I think that sort of being able to recognize from the beginning, which I feel is something like is still a work in process for me, is how to make the decision of like what to let go and what to be able to task out and be able to hire out. And I think it comes back to too, like you're saying, is really knowing what you're good at and what you're not. Right. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's like I think a lot of times that can be led with like feeling shameful about the idea, like, oh, I'm a business owner, but I don't know how to do this, versus being like, I'm a business owner and I don't know how to do this. And that makes
Yeah.
me a better business owner because I can say that out loud. Right.
I think I'm more like, I'm a business owner and I don't want to do this. Like, I got a bookkeeper right away when I started Mulchar, because I was like, I did not start a business to like keep track of my receipts and, put in the numbers and figure out and do cash flow forecasting. Like, I definitely need that done. And it's definitely important to have your numbers really correct. That's like something that has been so important. I do not care to do it. I do not want to do it. And I am so happy I outsourced that from the very beginning, because also too, like, having really appropriate and accurate numbers is how you're going to get a business loan 2 years down the
Mm.
road. A bank won't recognize it if like only you've been doing it yourself and it's not very accurate. So yeah, I wouldn't say for me it's that I just say it's not that I can't do it. It's I really know what I don't want to do. And I'm okay with saying it and
That's
putting it
a
out
great
there
way
and
to look
hiring.
at it. Because often as business owners,
Mhm.
you're right. There is like, you have to wear so many hats that even if it isn't something that you're naturally good at, you can be like, well, I can do this. Like, I can figure this out, of course, because your business is on the line. Of course, you'll figure out whatever you need to figure out. Right. But yeah, it's a good way to put it. I don't want to.
I don't want it. And I will say that I'm okay to say that too.
I love
Mhm.
that. Um,
I don't think I've had a chip on my shoulder being like, I'm an entrepreneur and I had this dream of running my own business. I think it because I fell in it and I was like, oh my gosh, I really know where my strengths are. And I've never thought of myself as being this like amazing business owner that does it all. And like, I think though, that is what makes me a great business owner, is that
mhm.
I'm so willing to, know where my strengths are and know where my time is best well spent.
Yes. That's so
Mhm.
smart. It's so smart. And I think it's super easy if you come into that and that isn't the mindset, it's kind of hard to reverse that. Like it's hard to once you've like gotten so far in to be like, now we're so far in. How do I let this all go? And it's like almost more challenging.
It's an ego thing too, completely. Like, you really have to check your ego when you're a business owner too.
Yeah, so smart. Oh, I agree. So I love that's such a big part of your business. And I love that you had this in your mindset from the get-go that you really wanted to give back. And like your business is almost like shaped around that versus having a successful business and being like, oh, we can give back now, where you've kind of used this as your like mission from the beginning. I think that's so amazing. So how did you how did you determine? I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, as you were in school and just the things that you were in healthcare, obviously, you got to be aware of a lot of needs and a lot of things then that people are needing and places and amazing organizations to give back to. How did you decide as a company or for yourself, I guess, from the beginning? Where you would like, what was the ones that were top of mind? How did you make that decision for your company?
Yeah, the I just drew it from personal experience. So the first organization we donated to in our first year was CADS Calgary. So that stands for the Canadian Association for Disabled Skiing, and that's just at Canada Olympic Park here. And I heard about them through this family that I used to do pool therapy with. So I was once a week, I would do pool therapy and do stretching with this gentleman, and he loved the sit ski program there. And I always heard about it, and I heard about the great things they did. So that was my kind of at the top of my list at the beginning. So I found an email, I sent an email, and I just asked if I could give them money, and they were like, absolutely. Yeah. So on it, I was like, this is what I'm starting, and I want to collect $1 and donate it. So yeah, so in that our first year we donated $2,000 to Cats Calgary, and then the next year was another organization I had heard a lot about. So it was Between Friends, and Between Friends runs a lot of summer camps. They're very play and recreation based, kind of like CADS as well.
Yeah.
So I heard about them. I reached out to them. And then we ended up donating over $8,000 in our second year, which is pretty awesome.
Wow.
And then I believe that's our third year was Pace Kids, and they're more education based kind of support. So I think they reached out to us. I think the notion of that we give back started all of a sudden caused some programs to start reaching out to Milk Jar. And
Mm.
I had heard of Pace Kids, so I did a visit there. So I went and visited Pace Kids. We had a meeting. I saw what they did. I got to view their classrooms, and they're kind of they're almost, it feels like a little school. It's really cool. And they have this really awesome sensory room with these funky lights and all these cool things in there. So that's kind of how I chose them. They reached out to me, and then we donated $16,000 to them in our third year. And then last year we supported Grit Calgary Society, which stands for Getting Ready for Inclusion Today. And they also reached out to us. So I think they were the first one to reach out to us. We got reached out to by a few. I interviewed them as well. I saw their programming. They were more education based as well, and it was really cool going there. They felt more grassroots.
Mm.
They didn't seem to do a lot of marketing. They had been around, I think, around that 30-year mark. They'd been around forever, it seemed like, in Calgary. And they had some more kind of special cases and special kids that they dealt with, and they supported, and they had in their programs. And yeah, it was really cool because I felt like Grit was very different than all the other organizations that I worked with, or that we partnered with. So yeah, and then that was last year. We donated $41,000 to them. We had our best year yet.
Wow.
So then this year we've actually switched it up because our donation is higher, and there's so many other amazing programs out there. And how do you choose just one? So we're donating to 6 this year. So we brought back on CADS, Pace Kids, and Between Friends, and we added 3 new organizations: Ups and Downs, Step by Step, and CP Alberta, which stands for Cerebral Palsy Alberta.
Mm.
Just to spread that love a little bit more and bring more, because a piece of it is us obviously donating money where it's needed, but another piece about us donating is bringing awareness that these organizations exist and the amazing work that they do on our social platforms and in our newsletters. So we just wanted to kind of, have a bigger draw and, just provide more awareness.
That is so amazing. Well, and as because my daughter has Cassidy's lemonade stand for cystic fibrosis, and we've been doing nonprofit work for like 9 years now, this just hearing the fact that your business makes that such a priority and that's such a mission of it. I mean, obviously, a lot of businesses give back. This is not a new concept, but the way that you're doing it feels fresh. It feels new, that it's such a big part of your mission of your business versus it just being, oh, we had a great year, let's make a donation, right? Like it's sort of just like, this is just a
Yeah.
part of it. It doesn't really matter whether you've had a bad year or a good year. You just get to give more dependent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
and it's written on our boxes, and it's on we share it on our website. It's really important. It's our company is bigger than Milk Jar, and that's what it always needed to be. I wanted to be an OT. I wanted to do therapy with kids. So this is what I couldn't get into school. So I basically just started a company and then just made made this mission to make me feel like I had purpose and I was doing my life's purpose. So that's kind of that. It is a huge part of Milk Jar, and it's what gets me out of bed, honestly, like every day. And in those, in business, you have those hard days, and this is the one thing that definitely will always keep me going because it's bigger than Milk Jar. It's bigger than a candle.
oh, I love that. That is so good. So what would you say for yourself? I mean, you're still relatively new in business, having like your five-ish, just under five-ish years or whatever, but you've done so many incredible things in those years. And I think sometimes it's easy for new business owners to feel just overwhelmed and not necessarily even get to the place where you're at. What would you say to other entrepreneurs or people maybe even just dreaming of ideas like you were, making candles at home for fun, never dreaming that this would be what it turned into, for I guess just maybe some like inspiration or practical tips or things that kind of just clicked for you as to why this is where it is right now versus you still just making 8 candles at home and saying this is where we're going to keep it at, you know?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I think what I always like to share to future entrepreneurs or other entrepreneurs is like, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. Like I love sharing that. I mean, I do, but when I don't know, I figure it out. I am so like gentle to myself that I don't have business experience. I don't have marketing experience. I didn't hire everyone out right at the beginning. I only had a bookkeeper. That was the only one thing I got right away. I only really started having a marketing team only like 8 months ago. And I did everything myself. I always hired a photographer. That was one thing because I knew I didn't want to take my own
Smart.
photos on my cell phone. I don't think my candles would have sold well if they were cell phone photos. So good photography can really elevate your business. But honestly, my biggest advice is focus on progress, not perfection. If you get hung up on perfection, when you're also learning and you're also like, I still was learning the candle product. Like I wasn't a candle master when I started Milk Jar at all, not in any way. We've changed our wax several times throughout the 4 years. We've changed our wick sizes. We've, changed our packaging. It's you have to really be gentle on yourself that like a lot of people I think get worried that they don't know it all of how to start a business at the beginning. And like I didn't even incorporate until I think it was like 8 months in because a lawyer told me to. I was a sole proprietor and I was just talking about my business and this lawyer was like, "You're not incorporated, like you own a candle company. You could burn someone's house down. Like you need to have it be a separate entity, not a sole proprietorship where you are the business." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then literally like the next week I incorporated. I was like, "Okay, like whatever, like good to know. I'll figure it out when I like the things will come up, the steps will come up in your business. And when you need to do it, you'll figure it out and you'll do it. But don't worry about having to do everything before you launch. Focus on progress, not perfection. And, you'll make mistakes or you'll forget things, but they'll come to light when you need to do it. And, it takes a long, long time. Like it's, you to get to this level, to feel really like that, feel like you're in the success stage. I don't know. It kind of maybe felt like 2 years for me, 2 years in. But the journey and the learning is so, so incredible. And I think I could give a lot of good advice to, like, like entrepreneurs for dummies. Like that's what I feel like I could speak to really well. Cause like, I don't know. I think people see Milk Jar and they think I'm like this. I maybe like went to business school or something, or, I definitely have a knack. I think what you were saying earlier, Kimberly, you were mentioning making quick decisions. Oh my goodness, am I good at making quick decisions? I get overwhelmed quite easily when there's too many things on my mind, in my business and in life. Like my partner and I, we just bought our first house, and I think we looked for 2 weeks. And most people are like, whoa, that was really fast. I was like, honestly, I just didn't want to think about it anymore. I was like, we found one, we got the warm, fuzzy feelings. I loved it. Okay, done. And now I don't need to think about it anymore. Like that is totally my way of thinking. And it's really never steered me wrong. Honestly, I really trust my intuition. Sometimes, yeah, oh crap, I didn't get the best price on that because I really jumped on it, but it wasn't a bad price. Like I knew on whatever I'm purchasing, whether it's a bunch of tins or glassware or something, but then you figure it out next time when you got more time. But, you know, running a business, there are so many different avenues. And if you're wearing all those hats, you cannot, if it takes you 2 months to make a decision on, I don't know, packaging design, or I don't know, like a year to find a warehouse. I mean, sometimes there are some things that should take a bit of time, but if you can make some quick decisions and trust yourself and not worry about it, your business will get to where it needs to be a lot sooner.
Totally agree. Totally
Mhm.
agree. I think that's one of the, I don't know many entrepreneurs who don't do that. Like that's just
Yeah.
kind of the nature of it, where if you are and that's uncomfortable and you realize that's not something you really like to do, then that's probably a sign of it just not being maybe the right direction.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, then they're focusing on perfection and finding the best thing, and then they never make that decision, then they never complete that step to get to the next step.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Oh, I totally, totally agree. Oh my goodness. I love that because I think it is so easy to kind of focus on what you don't know rather than realizing that everything, somebody knows something about everything. And you're right. I feel like I'm learning a lot as I'm just talking to you, just hearing this, saying it out loud and being like, it's okay to not do everything yourself. It's like something that I have to like tell myself all the time. In fact, it's more
Yeah,
than okay. It's better to not do it all
it's
yourself.
better. Yes. If you want to have a long lasting like career in whatever you're doing, I mean, you'll burn out so quickly if you're doing it all yourself. And then it won't be fun anymore.
Well,
And
that's
that's not why
exactly
you started
it.
a business.
Well, that's right. And the whole starting of the business, like you said before, starting it and the actual act of like what you get to know your business does. You love that you get to give back and you get to be a part of these things in a new way than you ever thought that you were maybe going to be a part of it before. But yeah, like if you're just in the trenches of doing all of the things where you're like, I didn't sign up to be a bookkeeper. I didn't want to be an accountant. I didn't want to do this. Like that wasn't what I ever intended for my like education or life to go. If you actually can like break the things down in your business into what the actual real life job is for that and be like, did I ever dream of doing this in my life? Mm-mm, no
Nope.
chance in a million. Nope.
I'll outsource now.
I love that. And I love that you are able to just sort of be able to just really get involved with the organizations that come to light for you, where you can use your background in health of what you thought you were going to get into and kind of be able to give back in such new ways. I think that's so creative.
Yeah, I feel like I'm giving back in a greater way than if I was ever an OT. And you know what? You just make it happen. And if anyone has any, if there's anyone else listening to this that wants to add a philanthropic aspect to their business, it's not hard. All I did to start was just send an email. I found an email and I asked to give them money, and that's all it takes. Like, it's not that hard.
And speaking from organization standpoint, when a business reaches out, which has happened to Cassidy's Lemonade Stand many, many, many times, because there are so many generous individuals and businesses out there, that is like the most heartfelt thing to feel, that somebody sees you, they believe in what you're doing, they want to trust your organization with their hard-earned funds that they're wanting to do good with. It's like fireworks, feels so good. So good for you. Okay, so to wrap up our conversation, I always have some quick fire, which don't always end up being quick fire because usually it leads into like other fun discussions, but questions to get to know you, not just Milk Jar, but Holly.
Holly, okay.
Okay. Are you a reader or a book listener, audiobook listener? What are you currently reading?
I am definitely an audiobook listener. I have so many books. I read the first few chapters and that's about it. And I actually am currently listening to Atomic Habits. I can't remember the author right now. Have you heard of that one?
I haven't, but I'm currently writing it down as you say it, because then I can add it to my reading list.
It's great. I feel like it's a book for anyone and everyone. It's about building good habits, breaking bad habits, and it's fantastic. It even talks about all these workbooks and things that you can find online and use to I mean, I'm just saying the kind of basis of it, but how to create good habits and break bad habits, just definitely there's a system to it, and it's really cool because I want to be better at answering my emails. That's a habit I want to be good at. And, flossing more regularly. Like you can relate it to anything in your life. Everyone always or like running more, exercising more, there's a few bad habits I'd like to break. I have beer every single night. And I mean, that's not a bad habit, but I don't know, it's a pandemic thing. I feel like I'm drinking every single day and I'm like, ooh, that's a habit I've adopted that I don't think I want to do that all the time. So yeah, Atomic Habits. It's a really, really awesome book. And I definitely
That's so amazing, because I feel like you're right, like flossing, like you said, for instance, there's so many like little things where you like think about them on a regular basis of, oh, right, I should do that more, or I should eat this, not that. And it's not even like you're thinking about it all the time, but it pops up and yet it never changes if you don't actually do something about it.
Yeah, like one of the skills they teach you is about your like environment and setting and making it easy. So don't have your floss in the drawer, have it on your counter beside like visually see it, like things like that. So it's a really cool book, and it definitely
That's so smart. I love that. I love that it's like such practical, because that's all that it is, right?
Yeah,
Like, of course, it's not the actual flossing of the teeth that's the issue. It's just like
just
doing it.
Floss and doing it.
Brilliant. Okay. Are you a coffee drinker? And what is your coffee order?
Definitely. And if I usually make coffee, but if I go out to, a cafe, I love flat whites. I love like whole milk, a lot of milk.
Just all the way going for it.
Yep.
I love it. So currently right now in your life, where you're at, what would you say the theme song of your life is?
Probably, there's this song. So there's this group called Peachtree Rascals. They're kind of like a little like beachy rap group. I think they're from California. They have this song called Glide. It's probably not appropriate, but it's basically a song about like not telling me what to do. Right. I'm 32 years old and I still act like I'm like 16 years old. And that's it. It's about like, don't tell me what to do, and like I'm on my own path kind of thing. So I guess that's probably my theme song. It's a good song too. It's like really, really summery.
Yeah, perfect. That's awesome. Okay, so speaking of habits, what is your favorite junk food?
Sour Patch Kids, the tropical flavor.
You didn't even hesitate.
I know.
Just jumped right in there. Oh, yeah.
We probably eat 2 bags a week, like me and my partner, like they're so good, but not the regular, like the original, the tropical flavored.
I don't think I've ever tried the tropical.
Yep. There's a little white Sour Patch that is pina colada flavor. Oh my God, it's so good. So
That
good.
sounds like they could somehow be paired with cocktails.
You totally could. Candy and cocktails for sure.
Right? I was actually
Yeah.
on this wine event with Spade and Sparrows, Caitlin Bristow's team.
Mm.
She had their sommelier do this like wine event where they did junk food pairings
Oh
with
my
wine.
gosh.
It was so fun. They were like, and I feel like Sour Patch Kids, just the regulars, maybe not the tropical, were actually maybe one of the ones they had like paired it with something salty, something sweet, sour candies. Like they just had picked a few sort of classic things and been like,
Yeah.
wine with this wine with this. I'm like, well, now
That's
you really
so
put it
creative.
together.
Wine and candy. Love it.
I love it. Okay, when was the last time you really, really laughed at something, and what were you laughing about?
Um, not too long ago, I went winter camping with my partner and a couple friends. We rented these camper vans, and it was March, I think. So it was still really icy. We went to the Fernie, BC area, and we went to this lake. And when we got there, it was so icy. No one was there camping. We're definitely the only ones. And I think it was the next day. I was carrying this. I think it was it might not have been a 24 pack, but like a 12 pack of beer. And I tried to walk across this like massive ice patch and I totally slip out, like slam on my knees, like fling this 24 pack of beers. And I was on top of a hill that led down to the lake.
No.
And then they like just all like my partner and my friends were like heard this massive like crash and then just see all these like 20 beers like rolling down the hill, like just rolling and rolling, and they just kept going. It was pretty funny. And luckily though the lake was frozen, so they were just like chilling on the
Right.
frozen lake.
They were just
So
waiting for you. Yeah.
yeah, they were just, but they were all shook up so bad after that. But yeah, that was a pretty funny moment. Everyone said that was like, they should have like wished they had filmed it. It
Right.
would have
Like the
been,
highlight of the whole entire weekend.
yeah. I mean, I was in it. I didn't really watch it, but I heard from my friends it was really funny. We all were laughing pretty hard. I mean, I was hurting, but
I will go as far to say wipeouts to since I was a kid and now still as an adult are my absolute favorite. Like it does not matter the scenario. My children have actually gotten really, really hurt wiping out and I can't stop laughing. I can't stop laughing. Like I'm the worst person ever. I'm helping them, of course, like get ready, but
it
like
is
get
funny.
themselves sorted out. It's so freaking funny.
It's so funny. Well, and like remember when we were kids, like America's Funniest Home
Yes,
Videos? I think the only thing it was people falling, basically.
it is. And you wonder like how on earth, especially in those times when it was like not being filmed from a phone, it's being
Yeah.
filmed from like a video camera that they're holding. How on earth did you have this thing out there? Because some of them, okay, you're like, okay, these maybe all aren't real. Like, is it realistic? Some of them are, there's no possible way that could not have like really happened that way. Like you can't cast that
Randomly.
out. How is the camera out?
Yeah.
Videoing
Well,
them
that's
all,
what our parents did. They just always had the video camera out. I think my parents had so much video content, like too much of it.
right? Oh my word. I love it. That kind of makes me think that I should maybe look back to some of our old stuff and see how it could be repurposed for modern
Throw it
day.
on a TikTok.
Right? I'm like, suddenly it's an Instagram reel,
Yeah.
reliving it all.
Yeah. What's old is new again, always.
100%. Okay, last but not least, where are you most looking forward to traveling to next once things open up in our hopeful world?
Yeah. I would love to go back to Kauai in Hawaii. That is my partner and I went there a year and a half-ish ago for a wedding, and I'd never been to Kauai. It's the Garden Island. Have you been to Kauai before?
I have not. I have only been to Maui.
Yeah, I went to Maui once when I was like, I think I was 7, and I remember it a bit, but and Maui is a little bit more, has a lot more, I guess, taller buildings, like skyscrapers. It's a really cool island, but Kauai, I think you're not allowed to build over like 3 stories there. So there's
Oh,
no high buildings. It's called the Garden Island because it's so lush. so lush. It is stunning, so beautiful. I would love to go back there like in a heartbeat. Obviously Europe would be really cool, but I think like my number one would be going back to Hawaii. It's pretty quick for us to get over there. It's not too bad.
Yeah, totally. And it's just so beautiful there.
So
Like
beautiful. Yeah.
just beautiful. Oh, loved. I've
Mhm.
only been there once myself, but it was 3 weeks of heaven. Yeah.
Heaven. Yeah, and like the smell of like plumeria, like the
Yes.
plumeria flowers, and yeah, it's beautiful. And I love that it's not always super sunny. It's actually quite stormy there quite a bit. And I
Mhm.
love that. It's like little tropical storms happening all the time and like
Oh,
beautiful clouds rolling in.
just paradise. Oh, I love it. This is like, I'm just having a little mental vacation here, thinking about the day that we can go travel
Mhm.
again.
Yeah.
Holly, thank you so much for sharing your story today. It was so lovely to meet you and hear this in person and just know the story behind your beautiful candles. And I will link these all in the show notes because you guys, you've got to go check out these candles, get one for yourself, listen to the pretty wooden crackling wick, and pick your scent. There's so many scents. I have yet to work my way through all of them. Every time I pop into Twisted Goods here, I'm like, there seems to be a new flavor
New
every
flavor.
time I go in, new flavor.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to keep it fresh, you know. We have seasonals that always come in and out. And next in on June 1st, we're coming out with a candle named Hawaii. So yeah,
Well, well, well.
it is plumeria. It's a very floral candle. It's plumeria, and we blended it with lilacs because in Calgary we have so many lilacs here. So it's a very floral candle, but really tropical and beautiful. So you'll probably see that one in Twisted Goods pretty soon, Kim.
Oh my goodness, I cannot wait. I will be looking for it. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for being on the show today. This was so fabulous.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kimberly.